What if I told you that inside your brain, there's a small gland that ancient mystics considered the gateway to higher dimensions of consciousness? They knew that when this gland is fully activated, a human being gains access to levels of intuition, intelligence, and spiritual power that make them look supernatural. They also knew that this gland was so transformative for human beings that certain opposing forces would try to shut it down. In this episode, I'm going to unpack what this gland actually is, and not from some woo-woo perspective, but from a real neuroscientific and neurological perspective. I'm going to show you why the ancients revered it as the gateway to God and the exact practice that brings it back online. Because when it does, you don't just think differently, you activate capabilities that most people would call superhuman. Let's get into it. All right, guys, let's start with what this thing actually is. Before we get into the spiritual side, I want you to understand that this is a simple scientific explanation. The pineal gland. It is a small pine cone-shaped gland sitting right in the center of your brain. It's about the size of a grain of rice, and it's a bundle of nerves that, according to science, produces melatonin, which regulates your sleep-wake cycle. Now, it also produces serotonin, which has a major impact on your mood and your well-being, and there's growing research suggesting it produces DMT, which is dimethyltryptamine, one of the most powerful consciousness-altering compounds known to exist. This is the compound associated with near-death experiences, deep mystical states, profound shifts in perception. If you've ever listened to Joe Rogan, he talks a lot about his DMT experiences. This is also the active drug that produces profound entheogenic experiences in ayahuasca ceremonies. So this tiny little gland in the center of your brain is potentially the source of the most powerful consciousness-altering chemical that your body can produce. The pineal gland also contains photoreceptor cells similar to those in the retina. And so while mystics referred to it as the third eye or the gateway to the spiritual world, turns out it literally has the biological hardware of a third eye. So it's not just a metaphor, but it's anatomy. And here's what makes it unique. Unlike most of the brain, the pineal gland sits outside the blood-brain barrier. So it receives direct blood flow, one of the most vascularized structures in your entire brain, which means it's incredibly sensitive to what you put into your body and to what your body is experiencing. So this pineal gland thing that you've been hearing about, it isn't mythology, right? This is neurology. And, there are a lot of things out there that I think are worth looking into. A lot of things I think are not worth looking into. But based on my research, this pineal gland is worth paying attention to because this is a real structure doing real things in your brain. And the ancients knew about it thousands of years before we had brain scans, which is pretty mind-blowing, right? Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This thing we're just starting to understand scientifically, ancient civilizations already knew about, and they encoded it literally everywhere. So the pine cone, just a few examples, is seen all over Egyptian esotericism. For example, on the staff of Osiris, there's two intertwining serpents that rise up to meet a pine cone at the top. That's the pineal gland. It's two energy channels rising up the spine to activate the gland at the crown of the head. In Freemasonry, the pine cone is all over the place, and it represents for them human enlightenment, spiritual awakening, the third eye or the pineal gland. It appears on top of sculptures and walls and what are called deacon's rods. It signifies wisdom in the pursuit of higher consciousness and maybe even immortality. At the Vatican, they literally have something called the pine cone courtyard with a giant pine cone sculpture sitting in the middle of it. So if that's not worth paying attention to, I don't know what is. It's literally the largest pine cone statue in the world sitting in the middle of one of the most powerful religious institutions on earth. Just decoration? Probably not. In Hinduism, it's the Ajna chakra or the third eye chakra. It's the sixth primary chakra that's located right in between the eyebrows. It's acting as the center for intuition, higher knowledge, and insight. And it's known in Sanskrit as the command or perception. It represents the balance between logic and intuition, and it gives you clarity and mental strength and spiritual perception beyond physical sight. And then in Buddhism, this is the point between the eyebrows where you focus during meditation. That little dot on the statues of Buddha, that's the third eye, the pineal gland. So this thing has been represented all throughout history in major texts in major places in the world as important, really as the most important neurological structure a human being has. What's crazy, as I said before, is that the ancients didn't have MRI machines, they didn't have brain scans, but they still knew. They built entire civilizations around protecting and transmitting this knowledge. So let's take it a little bit deeper, because the ancients weren't just saying, hey, this gland is interesting. They were pointing at something much bigger. And when you look at all the ancient texts and symbols and what they were pointing to, it becomes pretty clear. They were saying, this is where God lives inside of you. And I want you to think about that in the context of what we teach here on this channel. I talk about it all the time, how God is not out there somewhere, right? God lives within you, right? Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is inside of you. The God power can be activated inside of you at any point in time. Well, the pineal gland is where that activation happens neurologically. So this is the hardware, right? In Hinduism, the Agnya chakra isn't just an energy point. When the third eye opens, you start perceiving reality as it truly is, not through the filter of your limiting beliefs, your programs, or even limited your five senses. You experience reality through direct knowing, through direct connection to the source. In Christianity, Jesus says, if your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light, right? So he's not talking about your eyesight, eyes. He's talking about the single eye, the inner eye, the pineal gland. When it's activated, your whole being fills with divine energy. And think about this, right? Again, the kingdom of God is within you. That's not just a nice spiritual phrase. If the pineal gland is, as the great philosopher Descartes said, the seat of God within you, then Jesus was literally talking about where to look. He was pointing at the hardware. Now, let's take it a little bit further. Jesus healing the sick, multiplying food, knowing things before they happened. What if that's what a fully activated pineal gland looks like? What if Jesus wasn't supernatural in a unique sense? What if he was showing us what a human being is capable of when this pineal gland is fully online, when the bridge between the third and the fourth dimension is wide open? So that changes everything about how you read those stories. Those weren't miracles reserved for one special person. In fact, he told us that we would do even greater miracles than he would. They were demonstrations of what's possible for all of us when the hardware is functioning. Hey, real quick, it's David interrupting myself. We are opening up a few spots on our calendar for coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, and service providers who are serious about growing their business this year and interested in working directly with me and my team. So our programs are by application only. We're extremely selective about who we work with, but if you want me, my coaches, and our team of experts who are actively in the trenches building our business every day to become your strategic advisors as you're growing and scaling, click the link in the show notes or go to davidbusinessplan.com to apply and schedule a call. So we'll explore if working together is a fit and help you create a plan for more predictability, more cash flow, and more impact this year using the same proven frameworks behind over 1,000 plus client success stories and over $50 million in revenue in our own business. So spots are limited. Check out the link, schedule your call, and now back to the episode. Every mystical tradition basically says something similar despite what some modern religions might promote. God is not way out there. God is within. And the pineal gland is the physical hardware through which that inner divinity connects to your body, your mind, your reality. Now, think about what that means practically, right? Intuition, those moments where you just know something, where an idea drops in from nowhere, where you feel a pull towards something that you can't logically explain, that's not random. That's your pineal gland doing what it was designed to do. And when we talk about the fourth dimension, right, the energetic field of potential where all possibilities exist right here, right now, the pineal is the portal or the doorway between the physical third dimensional world that you perceive with your five senses and the fourth dimensional field where your future, your guidance, and your downloads all reside. And that's why the ancients revered it. Not because it regulates your sleep, because it's the doorway to God. So if this gland is the seat of divine connection or the antenna for intuition or the bridge between you and God, question is, well, why aren't we using it on a daily basis? Why are we struggling so much? Well, this is what's so interesting for most people. By the time you're an adult, your pineal gland has become calcified. It becomes coated in calcium deposits that reduce its ability to function. Studies show that by age 17, the average pineal gland begins to calcify. And by middle age, there's significant calcification in Western populations, and most adults are operating with significantly compromised pineal function without even knowing it. So I'm going to talk about what causes this calcification, but it's interesting because if I have a 3-year-old son right now, and, he's imaginative, he's creative, he has intuition and hunches. It's almost like he's not even fully here yet. He's still on some other side with some of the things that he says and observations that he makes. I believe that's actually because he has an active pineal gland. It's one of the many reasons. But by the age of 17, it becomes calcified. So what causes it? Well, fluoride has been pointed at as a major culprit, right? But the science is debated, and I want to be honest about that. So while the science is questionable, there is solid research suggesting the pineal gland accumulates more fluoride than any other soft tissue in the body. Now, a lot of people point to the fact that, like, why are they putting so much fluoride in our water? Why is it being put in our toothpaste? You know, when I was a kid, they'd literally pump your mouth full of fluoride, suggesting that this was good for tooth health, which, by the way, is also disputed by a lot of people, including dentists and doctors. Now, not to get into conspiracy theories, but this could be a factor, right? I don't know, but it's worth paying attention and worth doing the research on your own to see if you really need fluoride. But here's what I think is the bigger factor, and I'm sure this one is true, and that is stress. And this makes complete sense, because when you look at how the rest of the body works, as you decrease your stress, your microbiome functions better. As you decrease your stress, your endocrine system functions better. As you decrease your stress, every major system in your body works more efficiently. So why would the pineal gland be any different? Like, chronic stress keeps the nervous system locked in survival mode. The body's flooded with cortisol, which causes systemic inflammation. And this incredibly sensitive gland that sits outside the blood-brain barrier is directly exposed to everything circulating in your blood. So stress and fear likely have a major impact on pineal health. A lot of people are caught up in hacks for decalcifying their pineal gland. Look, there's some crazy recipes on the internet. Maybe they work, I don't know. But if we look at how every other system in the body deteriorates and regenerates, organ systems, endocrine systems, neurological systems, the number one thing is stress. And so you can go drink all the prune juice in the world if you want. But the foundational thing is to start working on being less stressed. And think about what that means in the context of everything that I teach, right? Your limiting beliefs, stress. Your unhealed trauma, stress. Your primal state emotional patterns, stress. If this is a spiritual gland, then it just makes sense that the way to activate it is to downregulate your nervous system, be less stressed, and be more spiritual. So that way you support building your neurobiological connection to God. So there's this whole conversation in New Age, and I'm sure you've seen it in other videos, about awakening the pineal gland. And I want to reframe this because the language itself is kind of part of the problem. Like, the moment we start saying awakening the pineal gland, it starts to sound like we're hanging out at the local hippie harvest, smoking some of the finest local green. Awakening the pineal gland is actually developing neurological capacity. It's like, if you don't work out your abs, you're not going to have a six-pack. You can actually train, though, and build the strength of your abs. And you can do that with your pineal gland. So when we say awakening, what do we really mean? What we mean is we're building neurological fibers. We're increasing capacity. We're removing the things blocking it so that it can function fully. Like, you would never say, I'm going to awaken my liver. But you would say, I'm going to detoxify my liver so that my liver functions more fully as an organ of my body. I'm going to strengthen my gut, right? That's what we're doing when we talk about awakening the pineal gland. We're detoxifying and strengthening a neurological gland so that it can do, an endocrinological gland so that it can do what it was designed to do. And what was it designed to do? Well, on one level, be the bridge between your neurological and endocrine systems, right? That's what it does in your body, according to Western medicine. But on the other, what we're talking about is connecting you to a higher power, giving you access to intuition, opening the door to the fourth dimensional reality so that you can receive divine guidance. You can operate from a level of intelligence that most people never do. Not because they can't, but because their hardware is offline. And so here's what's cool about this. When you understand it as a neurological capacity building, it stops being mystical and it starts being practical. Like, this is something you can actually train, something that you can develop, something that gets stronger the more that you use it, just like any other part of your body. So let me share what the practices actually look like to develop your pineal gland, because there's a spectrum from more complex to what I would consider to be more simple and foundational. On the complex side, you have the work of Joe Dispenza, right? He teaches an 8-step process where you do specific breathing techniques, specific meditation techniques. You're listening to his voice. He incorporates mudra hand positions for electrical circuitry in your body. You're moving your cerebral spinal fluid up your spine, which is supposed to activate the pineal gland at the top. And so he has combined with those ancient techniques, a ton of medical research, and thousands of people have reported profound results from his work. By the way, and you can find this on YouTube, there are suggestions that once a month your pineal gland actually goes through a natural rebirth. Some people suggest that's what Christ at 33 dying represented. It's the 33 vertebrae in the spinal cord. And through particular breathing techniques and abstaining from sex and alcohol and toxins at a very specific time, according to when your sun sign is in your moon sign, your cerebral spinal fluid journeys through your body over 72 hours, which was the period of time that Christ was entombed before raising from the dead. So now look, I mean, you can go down a whole rabbit hole with this stuff, and I'm not saying it's not true or not useful, and I go down the rabbit trail all the time. All of these things might be true, and I love exploring them because they're fascinating. But here's my honest take. What are you going to do with that? So, once a month when your sun sign is in its moon sign, you're going to not eat sugar and not masturbate. That's fine. If that awakens your pineal gland, fantastic. But here's what I actually recommend, and this is just from my perspective, my humble perspective. If we look at how the rest of the body works, right, when the body breaks down, what's the number one factor? We said stress. So as you decrease your stress, your pineal gland functions better. Just like every other part of your body, right? Every system, it works more efficiently when it's not under stress. So the foundational practice is to start working on healing your stress, which is healing your trauma, to start letting go of your limiting beliefs, to start down-regulating your nervous system, to start doing the inner work. Because the natural byproduct of that is an awakened pineal gland. Right? More intuition, more intelligence, more guidance, more connection to God, supernatural capabilities, all the things that people are chasing through hacks are the natural byproduct of healing the programs that are creating the stress and the tension in the first place. So I don't think you need a 47-step protocol. You need to get out of survival mode. And when you do, the hardware comes back online all by itself. That's what's so amazing about the body. If you just take the stress off of it, you take your foot off the gas, the body returns to its full functioning capabilities. And when it does, in the context of the pineal gland, then the door between the third and fourth dimension opens. Your antenna to the divine starts receiving signals again, and you start moving through life with a level of intuition and clarity and connection that most people never experience. That's what an awakened pineal gland actually gives you. Real intelligence applied to your real life, right? Your business, your relationships, your health, your purpose. That's my take on it, but you let me know what you think. I'm just one opinion, and I respect yours. But if this episode shifted the way you see your own brain, your own connection to the divine, I want you to start with the foundational work that I'm recommending. Not the hacks, not the 47-step protocols, the real work. Head over to davidbear.com, drop your email. You'll get immediate access to my free Mind Hack ebook and a free training series. It is the foundation of everything that I teach, how to downregulate your nervous system, to release your limiting beliefs, and get out of the stress state that's been calcifying your connection to God and to intuition and to everything the ancients knew you were supposed to have access to. That's the starting point, and it's free. And if you're ready for the full system, the complete framework for rewiring your beliefs, healing your nervous system, opening the door between the third and fourth dimension from the inside out, check out our Mind Hack and Whole Human Framework courses. The links are in the show notes of this episode. Thousands of high performers and entrepreneurs and leaders have gone through this work, and the byproduct is exactly what we talked about today. More intuition, more clarity, more divine guidance, more of what the ancients would have called an awakened third eye. All the links are in the show notes below. And if this episode opens something up for you, no pun intended, but share it with someone who needs to hear it, because there are people in your life right now who feel disconnected, who feel like they can't hear their intuition, who feel like they're stuck in survival mode, and they don't know that the hardware to change everything is sitting right in between their ears, waiting to come back online. And hey, if you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe. Be a part of this community. I love you. Thank you for being here with me today, and I will see you in the next episode.